Hey, B-Siders. This week we have an interview episode, which we think you'll like an awful lot.
Yeah. We are talking to Hilton Ruiz, writer and director of Zombie with a Shotgun, which we covered in a previous episode.
The man, the force behind Zombie with a Shotgun.
Talking to him about how he got his start in filmmaking and the making of Zombie with a Shotgun.
There's a lot of adventures that filmmakers share, and he's no different. So we get to hear his ups and downs in this process. A lot of good stuff, folks. A lot of good stuff coming up. A lot of good lessons and inspiration.
Well, yeah, and I love these interviews because it's one thing to hear us talking about things that you can learn from B-movies.
Right. But
it's another thing entirely to talk to makers of B-movies about their projects.
Yeah. And, you know, it just comes down to you got to keep pushing.
Yeah.
Got to keep pushing. And, let's let Mr. Hilton tell us all about it.
All right, let's do this.
Let's go. So we are on with Hilton Ruiz, and he is the writer, director, producer of Zombie with a Shotgun, the web series, and the feature film, which is on Amazon Prime for purchase or for rent. So do that. Links will be in the show notes, folks. So go have a look, seriously. Or we also have a link to the website for Zombie with a Shotgun, where you can purchase not just the DVD, but stuff. Get some stuff.
Merch.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So hello, Hilton.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Thank you for having me on.
Oh, well, thank you for doing this. I have been following Zombie with a Shotgun through Twitter for a while.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's one of those I had mentioned previously in an episode. It comes like 8 spaces removed. Somebody retweeted something that somebody retweeted something that somebody retweeted that was following, and it ended up on me. And I'm like, oh, this is interesting, you know.
Well, and when you told me about it, I was like, I love the title. I'm in.
Yep. So, yeah, when everything came to completion, you know, it's exciting. I mean, we love seeing people make it through their projects and complete them. So, yeah. This was a must for us. So let's, Zombie with a Shotgun started as a web series, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And that was,
so it started in 2012.
Okay.
As a web series.
Now the big question,
Yes.
So how'd you get there? I mean, what made you think, hey, I want to do a web series?
Well, I would say by 2012, right? We're going back, now it's going to be 7, going into 8 years, whatever you want to say. But, you know, during that time, you know, web series were starting to get popular. It was a thing that I would even say a couple years before that, you know, everybody was doing web series saying, hey, you know, this is a way to get on or people to see your work quicker or even a nice reel. You could do a web series.
Okay.
And, I always had the idea, okay, you know, that sounds like a pretty good idea. Instead of, you know, working on a short film, you know, maybe I could create a web series of, you know, any sort of type that I want. But, you know, come up with the idea. And at that time, I came up with 2 ideas. And one of them was Zombie with the Shotgun. And I wanted to do my own sort of like interpretation of the zombie genre. You know, it seems like everyone always has fun doing that whole zombie interpretation. People, especially that loves, you know, that's into the horror. And, you know, and us filmmakers and artists that are into horror, we, of course, love to give our own interpretation of the zombie genre. I think every sort of director that dabbles into horror always, you know, you could find out down in their track that does a zombie, you know, zombie film.
Yeah.
So what happened is that I said, hey, you know, I wanted to do my own, you know, my own zombie interpretation, and the interpretation was basically the point of view of a zombie. Now, what if we had, the main star being a zombie.
Okay.
And at that time, I was talking to the actor, which is Braden Body, who plays Aaron. And him and I were talking a year prior to that of getting to work, because he was supposed to be in another project. And then I started a web series and another web series, which he was in. And I really worked well with him. The camera liked him, and he looked very good. And I was like, you know what? I think this guy would be really good to be the lead guy for Zombie with a Shotgun. So then I brought that to him, and he was like, yeah, sure, let's do it.
Awesome.
So, yeah, it worked out very well. We shot it in August of 2012. And, I wanted to do something a little bit different again. It was sort of like a zombie that was good looking, and a zombie that, my whole angle was to basically have the zombie basically, no one cares about the zombie if he's sick, of course. If he's sick, let's kill him.
Right.
That's how it seems like it is, in all these sort of horror zombie films we watch. So I went total opposite, and said, okay, let's see if somebody really cares. The love interest is not going to leave him and everything like that. So, again, we went August 2012. We shot the film, and we had it basically in 1 week. We had the film cut, music, whatever, done.
Wow.
And then we put it on. Yep, it was pretty. That one was, I would have to say, very, very oddly. I think that was probably the only one that was the quickest. And out of all my projects, I have to say that was really quick. Yeah. And it worked out very well. And I think it happens to be that, it just clicked very well. Just everything went together. The editor was, as soon as we cut the film, we shot the film, the editor went work on it right away. And then I found the music, David Bateman, to do the music, which is also David Bateman gets a lot of credit also for Zombie, because he was there in the first 5 episodes, and he also scored the feature.
Okay. Yeah.
And so all the elements came in really quick, and then we put the episode on Vimeo. We did not put it on YouTube at first. We put it on Vimeo, and again, here's the web series. It's new. It's brand new. People's trying to figure it out. What this is all about. So I put out the first episode of Zombie with a Shotgun, and it just went viral. And
nice.
It was, us artists and filmmakers, that's what we try to aim for. We try to do a project, and we want to get viral, right? To go to the next step. But hey, I got viral. This is a wave that I'm going to catch, and I'm going to stay on. So once I got that viral wave, I didn't know what to do. I was like, it's like, basically, the dog that chases the car, and then finally when the car stops and the dog is there with the car, the dog doesn't know what to do. Right? And I was like, oh boy, what do we, wow, I've never felt like this before, And I started getting emails after emails of people that wanted to do interviews and wanted to tell me, what is this all about? And all these podcasts. And so I was like, wow, okay, I'm gonna, let's see what this is all about. Let me dabble into this and see how far this can take me. And then we continued the episodes 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we did get a lot of a lot of press and a lot of attention. I mean, it was just wow. And I decided to do other projects. Meanwhile, and then 2 years and a half went by, and I did other projects, but it always came down to, when I did interviews and everything, everybody would say, but what happened to Zombie with a Shotgun? Where is that? What are you doing? Are you going to do the featured film? And I was like, wow. I even did a web series called 666, which Eli Roth's company caught an eye on it, and they called me to bring one of the series into their Crip Horror channel, and I did original content for an episode for them.
Nice.
And still, even with that, people came and they would do an interview and like, hey, but what's going on with Zombie with a Shotgun? And I'm like, really? I'm like, I was like, oh wow. So I at this point I'm like, wow. And I just started social media with Zombie. I started social media 2 years and a half after the web series. Because, I wasn't really engaged in social media, and that's the truth. And I was like, I don't know if this is for me. I don't know. And So I started it, and then the numbers just kept going and growing and growing and growing. So that's when I said, oh, wow, I think I need to, I have a responsibility here. I have a responsibility to, take advantage and feed, these people that want more of this. So I got, a lot of the journey, as we would say, it's luck, right? We would all agree. It's a lot of it's luck.
Yeah.
I got it is. And I got approached by a very amazing artist who does image comics, Near Death, and he does all these comics. He approached me online and said he loved my concept and loved to see if I wanted to work with him. And I was like, sure, whatever. So him and I, we spoke for, quite a while, ideas to create a comic book. So, and at first, you get a lot of people that always talk and always say, oh, we could do this, we could do that. And it never happens. So, Simone Guglielmini, is Italian comic book artist, helped me put together the first issue of Zombie with a Shotgun. And that brought more attention to, wow, maybe I should continue. So same time, I was creating the second issue of Zombie Shotgun comic. That's when the idea came with, maybe I should go and do a crowdfunding campaign.
Right.
And that I just wasn't too crazy about, because I just felt like I was just begging people for money, and I just didn't like that whole idea. And I felt like, crowdfunding, a lot of people mistake for it as, your crowd. How deep does your crowd go? And my crowd is a bunch of artists like myself.
Right.
We don't have money to, how we're going to get money. So it's there in social media. Again, you get lucky. You meet people. You meet a lot of fascinating people, and I met Kyle Hester. Kyle Hester was also, I know you guys know him. He's in the film. He's an actor. And he's a producer, also produces Zombie with a Shotgun. I met him online, and we started talking ideas. And he's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I was like, "Hey, I'm trying to get this feature done." And let's rewind it just a little bit.
Okay.
I did approach a lot of horror producers.
Okay.
I would say I might have approached probably 90% of horror producers out there. I approached all of them. And, I like to say this because a lot of, independent artists out there, it's a struggle. It's hard. Even something that went viral as my zombie web series. We have a comic. We have this beautiful artwork. Social media numbers is growing. The producers that I approach and, try to get investors to come in still wasn't really all the way to go into it. A lot of them had said the typical sort of, well, if you bring money in, we'll bring money in. I get it.
Okay.
I get that. I get that whole thing. I don't have money.
Hear ya. We hear ya.
Everybody wanted me. Who's going to be the first penguin to jump into the water? That's what it was. And obviously, I approached a lot of them, and I'm like, hey, look, I'm obviously approaching you guys because I don't have the money. If I don't have it, can let's come in.
Right.
And it was really hard. And also it was very hard for them to understand that here we go with another zombie film. Walking Dead is blowing up, and why would we want to go into saturate the field of zombie? And it was really hard to say, but this is a really different zombie film. They heard it before. They're like, oh no, it's not. So that was my pitch. It's like, hey, this is not going to be a typical zombie film. This is about a point of view, but all they were hearing is zombie film, zombies. Like, oh God, I don't want to put money in another zombie thing.
Oh, I know.
That was another challenge. It was really hard for me because before I would go try to convince a investor or a producer, I had to come right away to say, hey, I got this original, not your typical zombie film. I had to come out with that first because it was very hard to say, hey, I got this zombie film. And then right away they're like, So, I spoke to all of them. I spoke to, and I'm trying to tell a lot of people who's inspiring filmmakers and going out there, it still could be really difficult, even for the fact that I had all these things that was going on for me. And I did get some that said, yeah, we'll come in, but, we want to but we'll take the project away from you and we'll give you, a small percentage.
Right. Yeah.
I said no.
Good on you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a lot of people were confused. They were like, what? And I said, look, I felt like if I got this far, and people like already what they see, I felt like I was going to, cheap them. Like, oh, I gave it to somebody else. You're not going to see the same vision that I've given you before.
Right.
And I just felt like I had to do it. I had to at least do one feature film. And if somebody was interested, maybe down the line, maybe he wants to do it, whatever. I just wanted to do it. That's just how I felt. And I kept telling them no, why? And I try to structure deals as sort of saying, hey, you know what? Why not? I still can do it. And, you could take a big chunk of it. I get it. It's your money. It's not my money. No. I had maybe 2 or 3 people like that. They just refused. So I said, okay, again, let's go. Now we fast forward Kyle Hester. And I'm like, hey, Kyle, let's, I have this, campaign that's going to be really hard. And Kyle says, hey, I help you come in and produce the film. And, we get together and we crowdfunding on social media. We work together and everything like that. And, I felt this synergy. Kyle and I had some energy there. And I was like, you know what? When you feel some energy, like not a lot of people I do. With him, I did. And I said, okay, let's do it. So we'd open up, we did the campaign and, we started a Kickstarter. Unfortunately, we closed Kickstarter. We had, I'm not sure, don't quote me on this, but I think we started on a $50,000 starting off, and we raised, I think, like $25,000, and we had like 3 weeks left, and we shut it down because there was no way it was going to make it. That was so disappointing.
Okay, yeah.
And that was like, oh man, because it was 3 weeks left, the numbers wasn't coming, and it's like, dude, why should we continue to keep on doing it? And we closed it, went on GoFundMe, and we actually funded less money. We got like $20,000. And it was a bummer. I was like, damn. And all the investors that came in before, they wouldn't come in. They were like, I had the money then, not now. So it was like, whatever. It is what it is. So we started getting private investors that were, we were doing, straight up agreements with people. Okay. And we did another crowdfunding, GoFundMe. I think we did like, I don't even know, 4 to 5 to 6 campaigns. I can't even keep track.
There were a few. Yeah, because when I was doing the budget research, like I said in the email, I'm like, I don't know where these breadcrumbs go. Because some here that didn't make it, some there that didn't make it.
So I feel like maybe I went too far on your question, because I know your question was the web series. I don't know if I went too far.
Oh, no, that's fine. Because
let me know if you want to ask another question or if you want me to continue.
Well, we'll just we can keep going, but we can touch on a few things that you brought up, because you brought up a lot of points, not the least of which is even because we've talked about on here, if you can't get your hands on an IP, because a lot of times that's super expensive. Make your own. Right. Make a web series, get a following, and then go to someone, and that's it's another egg in your basket to say, hey, I've got a slightly built-in audience. But even that
doesn't guarantee you
and
the backing.
And what you said about the zombie films. So we wrote a zombie origin feature, right? And we actually, we've had it out there. Someone still has it in their hands thinking about it. But we've had one person actually say, I'm not interested, the zombie genre's dead. And this was 3 years ago.
Yeah, and it definitely is not dead. And
I'm like, what do you mean it's not dead? Walking Dead is, blaring through. And then we have all these zombie films. And then we have like iZombie, hitting television. Everyone's taking these different slants on zombies.
Correct.
And same thing as you. This isn't your typical zombie movie. Yeah. Zombies don't show up in ours till towards the end. Right? These are people actively trying to make zombies, and it just goes, it's kind of a comedy horror because it goes really bad. But nothing original concept, a genre that's clicking. It really is luck. You can have the most locked down pitch, and it really just depends on what that person's thinking at the time and what their experience is, and then you could have, accidentally walked by the guy who's like, I've been waiting for this.
Yeah.
Kind of
timing,
thing.
right? It's timing.
Yeah. Right person, right place, right time.
And it's persistence. And one thing, because the whole point of this podcast is to, talk about independent and B movies and how, creatives can learn from them at every level. And one of the things we stress is, if you're looking to like put the work in and in 12 months be somewhere, you better check yourself hard, because 72 months later, you could still be pushing to get over that ridge. Some people, they do get it rather quickly, right? But yeah, independence a little bit different, because your battle was what everyone goes through: raising the money, getting everything together, but you're doing your own thing. But yeah, when you're relying solely on, John, Paul, and Fred, who are sitting in their desks, in some office in LA, you're at their whim. Well, it just makes it long.
Well, I like when you were talking about the people who said, "Oh yeah, we'll take it from you and we'll make it."
Oh yeah.
You could have sat back on your laurels and like just collected a check from them, right?
Yeah, I had some really interesting people. I mean, I look. This is a business. I get it. I don't want to call people's names or anything, but it was pretty good. There was some pretty good opportunities to. There was one that was it was a pretty good check, and basically take it out of your hands.
Yeah.
And I said no. I was like, no, I'm not doing it. It's like, it's just I love it so much for me to say, hey. I mean, I just felt I was selling out to the fans. I was selling out. It was all that legwork I did.
Right.
And I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. And again, I've tried to, like I said, structure a deal where, hey, man, still, put me into the equation. Why not? Why can I not be in the equation still?
Right.
Or, and I would tell some of these guys, like, hey, you're taking my farm and you only give me the little cute pig. I don't want only a little cute pig. I want to be in the farm also.
Well, yeah.
That's he said, hey, we're taking your farm, but hey, you want Wilbur? Take Wilbur with you. Take the little cute pig, and I'm like, oh, okay, and go back into the investment. I would, go back when people say zombie genre is dead.
Mm-hmm.
I would have that discussion with people, and I said, how's that so? Because every other season they have a new detective story. They have a new drama ER story.
Right.
You have how many of these, action, film stories. You'll still have vampire stories. You'll still have, all these monster stories, everything. I was like, why? I mean, how are you going to say the zombie genre is dead when you get all these, every season you get a new sort of like twist on a genre we've been watching for so many years, or a subgenre that we've been watching for so many years.
Right.
And, they just can never,
when we got we got that response, our initial thought was, Walking Dead, all this, but we also thought, you're saying horror is dead. Zombies are a piece of the horror genre. All this stuff is horror, and we've talked about it. Horror films are the easiest things in the world to make, comparatively to other stuff, because we've done the episode that will air after this interview is we looked at some short films, because
all zombie shorts.
Yeah. Started with
I hope Zombie Shotgun is there, but go ahead. Just kidding.
Well, that's going to be our web series, because we've talked about it.
Yeah.
Go.
But we started with Cargo, because Cargo is one of those. It was an excellent short, and they picked it up and made a feature out of it. Right.
Yes.
So then we found 3 others that were just floating in the basement of Amazon Prime that were fairly recent. And they ranged from, like Cargo, the brilliance of that, the makeup was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
But it wasn't even single location. It was shot in a field. I mean, you could have shot it in a driveway, right?
Yeah.
So the ease of making that, compared to folks who try to, get 7-8 locations and pack all this complicated stuff into, 7 to 15 minutes. But the makeup in all these different things varied. So we watched Zombies versus the CWA, the Country Women's Association, which was
yes.
Yeah. And they were makeup zombies. So it was just, blue face with black eyes. And they had some cool effects, though. I mean, we gave them high props for that. There was
some splatter.
Copious amounts of blood, which was awesome. Yeah. But, horror movies can be done, we've talked about you could do it in your living room. Now, you obviously, had to have makeup because we had a zombie and we got an infection.
Oh, man. And the makeup in the film Zombie with Shotgun, amazing.
Yes.
That's another story. Go on.
We'll get to that because I want to talk about that.
Yes.
But the whole idea that horror, any part of it is dead, just befuddled us, because if it's not zombies, it's vampires. And we've even heard someone say, how many more vampires can I get into? Well, apparently a lot, because like you said, there's a new thing every season.
Yes,
these kinds of vampires, those kinds of vampires. I think the only thing they haven't really ran with is like Frankenstein.
Yes.
He doesn't get as much love.
But there's even new creature features every couple of years too.
Yeah. You know. And I know when that came out, it's still kind of the trend. The jump scare horrors.
Yeah.
We're not fans of those because my daughter can scare me if I'm focused on something and she comes up behind me, Dad. I'm like, oh! and it didn't cost me, $150 to go to the theater and eat. I got a good scare.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the changing tides is what makes things difficult. But storming forward on your own, you get to carve your own place in that niche, which is what you did with Zombie with a Shotgun. And I want to just back up a little bit. So let's jump back to your origin, basically. So you're in New York, right?
Right. New York City.
New York City. Okay. So, simple question. Did you go to film school? Did you, what
made you want to jump into this world?
Yeah.
Of filmmaking. Okay. Yeah. Yes. Really good question. A lot of my inspiration basically is, it's weird to say, but I think it would be being from New York City. I was born and raised during the 80s and everything like that, and saw all the crazy stuff. I'm originally from Lower East Side. Okay. So when I was younger, it was sort of like the Brady Bunch. I had 3 boys, 3 girls living in the house, and the kids, and I was the youngest one. And the cheapest thing that we would do as a family was every weekend go to the movies.
Okay.
And every weekend when we go to the movies, and it is a really funny story that I have, is like when we used to go to the movies, we would come home, and even when we used to watch the Saturday kung fu movies that used to come on Saturdays, we used to me and my brother, my cousin, we used to make these like film pretend sets.
Okay.
We'll build we'll have a chair here. We'll put the blankets, make it seem like it was like, a building where you would go inside or anything. And we would have the actors. It would be either, my brother or my cousin. But I was not allowed to act because I was the youngest one. I was horrible. I was a horrible actor. But they told me you could be the director. Okay, it started when I was like, it's ironic because my cousin, my brother would bring it up. Say, remember when we was little? I was like, yeah. I said, you guys are a bunch of jerks. You never wanted me to be like, I wanted to be Luke Skywalker. We would see, Star Wars Return of the Jedi, and I wanted to be Luke Skywalker. No, you're not allowed to.
You're George Lucas.
So, yeah. And so we would go, do these play around and everything. And it started to grow a little bit because I think when I was 12 years old, I think it was 12 or 11 years old, we bought this new VHS big doofy camera.
I remember those.
Yeah, it was huge. And we continued to make some like movies together. My cousin, my brother, and we were doing these little films together. But then they got older because they were older than me, and they sort of they forgot about it. We don't do it. I guess they got girlfriends or whatever and everything, and it left alone to me, and my friend. We would still play with the camera, and I was like about 15 years old. My mom bought me a brand new. It just came out. It was like the new high 8 cameras that just came out. They were like they were small and everything, and I'm like, oh wow, that was my gift. So at 15 years old, we started making these little films, me and my friend, and, we made these little horror movies and everything. And and then from high school, I decided to take cinema. I was fortunate that in my school, they had a cinema study, during sophomore and senior year.
Yeah, that's super rare.
Yes, it's very super rare.
Yeah.
And I took the courses, and I actually I got stuck on the courses because I wasn't really like, all right, let me try this. And they were like, no, you know what? Since you like film, you think you should take it. But I knew that, you had to do studying and everything like that. I was like, no. But I stuck with it, loved it. And straight out of high school, I decided to go into a trade school. And here in New York, they have this thing called NYFA, which is New York Film Academy. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you probably guys heard it. And they just opened. I sound like an old school, right?
Yep.
To just open up. So you could tell my age if you get to like, oh, I know, figure it out when it opened and everything. So I started to do, short films there and there. And I took it was like a 2-month course, and there was like a 3 intensive course. And I wanted to learn photography, and I enrolled in Queensborough College, Community College in Queens. And there I met a mentor there, a photographer by the name of Jules Allen, amazing photographer. And we started doing photography, and I learned so much about the whole look and feel of, photography, which helped me with filmmaking.
Yes.
And there my professor, who's my mentor, he encouraged me that I should go back to film school. He felt that was more my thing to do, because he felt like, he knew what I was doing. He's like, you should explore that. Go out there and explore more. Because I was still doing short films, even though I was going to college and everything. But I wanted to learn more about the whole photography feel of it. So I decided to enroll to NYU. And I took courses there at NYU. And at the same time, I decided also to learn about fashion photography. I was really nuts about learning about all different aspects of filmmaking, photography. I wanted to learn about fashion photography, and I did also learn about animation. So when I went into FIT to learn fashion photography, and I was taking courses at night for NYU for film. It was a really crazy schedule I was doing.
It sounds like it.
Yes. And I had lots of fun. I had lots of fun doing it. And then eventually my photographer going back to Queensborough had told me that he, I really don't want to even say, but he was telling me about the photography. He was basically saying, hey, look, man, the digital world is going to destroy photography. And he said, he's like, if you're going to make a career, go into filmmaking. It's going to destroy it. He was right. He was right. So he said, and I listened to him. He's like, don't pursue a career in photography. He goes, there's just go into filmmaking and just go with it and leave photography alone. Because you could always do photography on your own as an art, as a hobby and everything. He just leave it. Mm-hmm. I listened to him, went more into filmmaking, and I just started, at that point, I started to work, of course, get a job and everything like that. I started to get a little bit of work. I started going behind the sets and doing all the usual PA work and everything. I got tired of it. I was like, no, I'm going to do my own stuff. I already knew how to shoot I already knew how to shoot a film. I knew everything about photography, cinematography. I knew everything. I knew how to work 8mm, 16mm, 35mm. I cut all my first films on Steenbecks and 16mm, 35mm mags, sound mags, and everything.
Nice.
I knew everything of it. All right. And then boom, and then the digital world came and I was like, how to use this camera now? It was pretty funny, but I learned it. The digital world came. You started to get a little bit depressed because you start to say to yourself, oh shit, like film is going to be dead. No, I was going crazy. Never, film would never die. And it's still to this day, I think film would never die.
It'll still be there. I think a little bit.
I continued a unconventional way of schooling, as I said, going into these trade schools, taking courses at NYU, taking courses in, of course, FIT, fashion photography, and I learned animation and everything like that. And so I took all those in, and I would have to tell you, and, inspiring filmmakers, anybody who's listening to me or anything like that, I really think that those first couple months at NYFA taught me everything I needed to know. Okay. And I'm not saying it was a waste of time or anything like that, but it really did. It really did. It taught me everything I needed to know. I just didn't. I mean, those extra courses was just to I don't know. I guess guide me a little bit more and more secure that that's the way you do it.
Right.
And that's what comes to filmmaking. The photography thing, to me, there was a lot of things to learn there. There was different things to do, but that was my strong belief. I mean, my experience. I just felt that the NYFA, those first 5 or 6 months I took in that course was all I needed to know. All I needed to know.
I get it.
There were some courses I took, like at NYU, and I'm like, really? I think I learned this in 1 week there. It's really it's sort of, I don't know how they do it now, but back then you would go to class 8 a.m. and you finish at 6 p.m. Okay. And then not necessarily 6 p.m. because sometimes you would have to go and shoot something after class. And so you would go home late and everything. So it wasn't I don't know how they do it now. But so, like I said, we're going back, way back. So it was many, many intensive hours of learning filmmaking right there, hands-on. And they basically gave you a camera. They gave you a 16mm, super 16mm. They gave you an Aeroflex SR, SR2, a B, BL. And it's like, here, we're going to just show you how to use it. And you guys go out there and just figure it out. And that's how it was amazing.
Learn by doing.
Yes. I still own some of my cameras that I've still own some 35. I own some 16mm cameras still. I don't use it because it is very expensive, but
it is. I was a photographer for years, and I totally get, because the digital wasn't even a dream at the time. It was all film, and learned the fundamentals of it, but a lot of it's just the hands-on. Like, how do you develop black and white film in the dark, with your eyes closed? Well, you do it 5 or 6 times, and then you got it mastered. It's just doing it. But the one thing about the photography, 2 things actually. So first, I think everyone who wants to make a film should get photography for dummies. Understand the basic concepts of light. That's really all it is. Composition comes after you figure out, where does the light fall? How do you work with the light? And
100%. I totally agree with you.
Yeah. Now, digital. Let's talk digital. When digital came out, I thought it was farcical. Not even 1 megapixel cameras. And they're like, this is going to take over photography. I'm like, I don't even know what that picture's of, man. Yes. So, no. But the reason I left photography is because I got tired of having the conversations with people on, if I were going to do a wedding. And my Aunt Zelda has this, Canon power shot. I said, well, I tell you what, give Aunt Zelda $40, let her shoot your wedding, and 25 years from now, when you pull that album out and you want to look at your magic day, call me up and tell me what you think about Aunt Zelda's pictures of your magic day. You know, and it just got to the point because everybody's a photographer now. Everyone has an iPhone. Everyone has an Android phone with a camera on it. And it just
and the
started.
Pictures are so manipulated at this point that they are photographers.
I know. It was maddening. It's like, oh my God, if you think being a photographer is just choosing your filter, do you not understand composition? Do you not understand, how to get, and I've railed on this in a couple episodes on, you could give me the worst looking crap to take a picture of and I will make it a work of art because I'll spend an hour trying to figure out how's this going to look as good as it can for what it is. But filmmaking now, like you said, physical film is making its departure in mass. I think it will always be around at some level because there is undeniably a quality to film that digital can't master. But everyone now has, again, an iPhone. Cameras record videos in 4K. So everyone's a filmmaker.
Yep.
Do you think, I'm just curious in your opinion, do you think that is, because we're still, I think, at the bottom of the hill. We're climbing up. We haven't reached the peak yet. Do you think that's going to change, even for a little bit, the landscape of, what you're trying to make a film and you're asking people for what most people would consider an exorbitant amount of money for what a lot of people view as a hobby. I'm an independent filmmaker. Oh, nice hobby. With all these people hitting YouTube and putting stuff on Vimeo and just because they hit record and just, then hit post, do you think that's going to be an obstacle at some point, at least for a little while? Yeah,
I really do. As in like taking over, as in like to be the new thing now, like you shoot it with your phone more than like.
Yeah. You want to do an actual, I sat down, I wrote this, I put this all together. I want to make this project. I want to get it out there, but you're fighting against 50, 60,000 people who are throwing out content, like.
I think that's happening now. I think it's happening a little bit, not as much as it will be.
Okay.
And I read an article not too long ago about how producers are trying to, separate the bunch from all these, material that they're getting. Because basically everyone is, basically anybody can shoot a film. There's no doubt about it. And as the equipment is getting cheaper, you're going to see more and more films. I mean, like you said, now the iPhone is just amazing. Like somebody just sent me a YouTube clip that was amazing. It was the Nightmare on Elm Street opening, I think part 4, and they did side by side shooting with the opening of Nightmare on Elm Street was like the first 5 or 7 minutes, and they had a crew shot the same exactly frame by frame with an iPhone. And they compared it, and it was just amazing.
Wow.
They got actors, like sort of the same set. It was like almost the same. They recreated the sets and everything, and they got the actors to look sort of like the original actors, and they did it side by side. If you look at it on YouTube, and you're like, are you kidding me? It was just, you wouldn't even tell it was shot on the phone. I think that's just, unfortunately, that's just the way it's going to be in the future. I mean, because now, you still have a lot of people that understand, I wouldn't say understand, but know the old generation of what filmmaking was about. And right. they're still in control there. But as time goes by, you're going to get the new generation coming in. And that's all they're going to know about. They're all going to know about, the YouTube generation. So the content they're going to get, it's not, they just can't really separate themselves knowing that, oh, wait, this is how it used to be 20 or 30 years ago. This is sort of the material that we were getting. We were getting amazing material before then, before this whole digital world came in. But it always comes down to this, and only time can tell, the story.
Right. Yeah.
It always comes down to the story. And we could always talk about, sometimes we see these amazing gems, right? That, somebody shot something with $500 and you're like, I don't care if it's $500. That movie was amazing.
Right?
Yep.
So, you get those amazing gems that come once in a blue moon and everything like that. But it always comes down to the story. And, I even go a little bit further. I think even as time goes by, you see some of these video games that look almost like movies. I mean, I think they're going to incorporate that whole, my iPhone camera with this new technology animation that couldn't, looks like humans. It looks like real people now. This the video game animation stuff that you see in these intro for these movies. So, I mean, either or. It's definitely going to be, I mean, come on, you could get now you could get an amazing camera for like $2,000. Yeah, you could get a Black Magic for $2,000. It shoots like better than anything out there.
I know, and it's kind of weird because as a photographer, my dream was to always get to a point where I could justify spending $61,000 on a Hasselblad. And I never got to that point. That's like I'm going to learn to play the guitar. So you go out to an auction and spend $1.5 million on an old rock star's guitar, and you're doing the equivalent of chopsticks. The quality of the cameras is fantastic. I mean, there's no doubt about that.
But I think a good story is always going to capture people, and that's what's going to make your film a success.
Right. We found like Space Trucker Bruce was a wonderful find. I mean, he built the sets, he did all this stuff, and he's in Juneau, Alaska, so he's got nowhere to go for anything. he had to make it happen, and he did, and it was absolutely brilliant. And we give full props to. We've seen some of shot 2 years ago, still shot on that giant VHS 11-pound camera, right? That someone hoisted on their shoulder. They broke that out of the closet, and they decided, all right, let's make a movie. A lot of them, it's like, you know what you're going to get. It's just a bunch of people having fun. That's cool, though. They did it. I mean, that's the thing we always give to.
Believe it or not, some of those cameras do give still good quality.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Except unless you use a tape that's been recorded over 70 times, which some of them, we were watching a movie a while ago, and it I swear to God, it cut to a football game for like an eighth of a second. What was that? The head skipped.
It's the best.
Now, so the film school thing, I want to go back to that again.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing we don't begrudge everybody goes into it differently. And we always encourage, go for what works for you.
Well, for me, to go back, for me, I really wanted to learn about lighting. That was my main thing. And that's why I went into photography, because I wanted to know, how does lighting work? And, and again, for people who's listening, you don't have to do, what I'm doing, what I did when I went to photography, learn lighting. It was something that I felt like I wanted to learn because I just loved the whole look of black and white. I was like, oh man, I want to learn that. I want to learn, just the capturing images and stuff, street photography. And that's one reason why I went to fashion photography, because, fashion photography is more kind of like a control environment. You control the lighting, you understand the lightings, you got the keys, the fills, you have all those lights, you're working with your models or your sets or whatever. And I wanted to learn those two aspects. It was definitely different contrasts, from, street to fashion.
Right.
And it did help. And, and that's why I went with it. And it was sort of like directing as well, because, when you went into fashion photography, you directed the models of what you wanted to do. You directed the lighting, you directed the settings and everything that you needed to do. And that was what I felt was key for me to learn. That was really key for me, as in why I went into photography.
Excellent.
And then filmmaking to me was more like a storytelling thing, and the motion picture. And again, I learned it. I learned it that first couple of months, but I'm like, I got to learn more about lighting. And that's why I went into it, and it worked very well.
I got to ask this question: do you miss true black and white? And I ask that because I've got an old '62 Nikon that I shoot black and white film on. I no longer do my own developing because I'm done dealing with all that chemical dumping, and what a pain to deal with. But like the last few rolls I shot, right? Film processing places, they only do color, and they'll run a black and white strip through there, and you'll still come out black and white, but it always has a slight color hue to it. I see it. A lot of other people don't, but I'm like, this is not what it used to be. I mean, do you miss that core true, instead of grayscale, it's just black and white?
Yeah. I'll give you a funny story. Just 2 years ago, I moved, and there was a place that I was going to move that had a dark room inside.
Oh, my God.
And, oh, yeah. And I said, this is it. This is the house. This is where I want to move. This is where I want to move. I got a dark room in here. And the guy decided to take it off the market. And I'm like, why? It was it was something with he wanted to ridiculously put it high for rent because whatever. And then I kept on going back and forth. I say, hey, can you reconsider? Blah blah blah. And I was so into I needed to get this place because I wanted a dark room. And it was just. And if it was for 2 months, hey, are you gonna give up the place? Come on, tell me, and everything like that. And then it never happened. So I was like, oh man, because I just it is what it is. It didn't happen, but do I miss it? I love to definitely go down the line. Love to do a black and white film. I mean, I just have to do it. I just have to do a black and white film. And I just love it. I mean, and that was the first my first maybe 6 or 7 projects I've done. It was all in black and white. Excellent. I actually did a feature, black and white, years ago. Very expensive black and white. Yes. Black and white, feature film for back then was so expensive. I still remember, just Kodak was, back then was a roll of film, 16 400-foot rolls was about maybe $100 and change, and with tax, and then to develop was another $100. That 400-foot roll gave you 10 to 11 minutes. I mean, the first lead was destroyed anyway because it got exposed, so you only had 9 to 10 minutes. Oh boy. But those days were the best. But yeah, I truly miss it. I mean, like I said, one day I'd definitely love to go shoot a project in true black and white film. And that would be great. Even photography too, I miss it. I just miss it. Yeah,
I the business side of it's one of those things. I haven't lately because we've got so many other things going. But fiddling with it once in a while is great. I wanted to mention the street photography. I like doing weddings and portraits, catalog shoots, things like that, because you are in 100% control. But street photography was my jam. I loved it. And what inspired me way back when I was starting out, one of my favorite New York photographers is Timothy Greenfield Sanders. And I just find his shots just phenomenal. And I loved doing street photography because it forced me to deal with the situation from second to second. Mm-hmm. It forced me to hone my skills where, instead of my biggest problem is I can't get the model to look at me at the right angle, it's either all the way over there, or all the way over there. And spending an hour, explaining how their body works, you can turn your neck just a little bit. Doesn't have to be all the way, one way or another.
Yep.
To just walking the street and seeing something interesting and being able to react to that and bring the camera up to the face, focus, get the right, framing, and, make those quick adjustments on the dial and then click. As a filmmaker.
Go ahead.
Okay. Now, because I'm not a filmmaker. We're getting into it long. That's a whole episode we could go on about. But I always wondered, things like that. I've talked to a lot of people and read about folks up and coming who did similar things like street photography, and how it helped them, deal on set, because not everything's perfect. You're the director, you're the boss. Which I want to just jump back real quick to your family telling you can be the director. I find that humorous that they're like, you can be the director. We're going to be the actors. And little did they know the director is actually the shit. You can be an actor because the director can send you home with a bologna sandwich. you know. So you have the controlled atmosphere. Did the uncontrolled bit of street photography help strengthen your filmmaking perspective and just, you know, dealing with the day-to-day during a shoot?
Absolutely. 100%. I mean, I again, you know, everyone has a different journey. I think what made me the filmmaker I am today is because meeting, again, my professor, whose name is Jules Allen, he's like my mentor. I think having those photography courses, I took about 7 or 8 courses with him. He just, I think all I needed to know, I want to say all I needed to know, what I learned and what made me be mature as a filmmaker, as an artist, was those photography courses, those strictly with street photography courses with him, and what he taught me and what I learned through street photography. And to me, I think if I never took that street photography courses, I wouldn't be able to be the filmmaker that I am now. And that is 100%, you know, just going out there, years of taking that, you know, photography every single day, black and white. And unfortunately, you know, things just changed. Digital has gotten really big and everything. I take it once in a while. And I give you a really quick story. I don't want to keep it. I got hired 2 years ago to do a documentary in Portland, Oregon. You know, the trailer's out. I don't know if you guys seen some of my stuff. It's about a case out there in Portland, Oregon, about this kid who was murdered by police to investigate.
Oh, on the train platform. Is that the one?
There was one. There was one by the train, but there was a couple. There was a couple of them. The trailer's out there, so I got hired to go out there to do the documentary. And I went out there, and I brought some of my crew members. We went out there to do the film, and I brought my old Canon AE1 manual, you know, photography camera, right? And my guy that I brought there, he was my camera guy was like, "Why did you bring that?" He was like laughing at it because it's like this dinosaur camera, right? He's like this old camera, and he said, you know, they don't use those anymore. They use this, and he pulls out the digital camera. I said, yeah, I think you got it wrong, dude. I told him, I don't know. I said, I think you got it wrong. I said, no. I said, I want to get I want to take a photograph because I feel like I could capture the emotions much better with the film. That's just my opinion, you know? So, you know, I got the 30 millimeter Tri-X, and I got a Tri-X 400 black and white 36 exposures. I brought two rolls. And I came out there and I said, I want to be able to capture the poster of this film. I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it with this camera. You know, he's there laughing like, well, if you're going to waste your time, you got 36 exposures, right? You know, I got this camera. You just use this camera. So we, you know, we're there taking photographs, and just being that photographer that I am, the photographer mind came into me and everything. And you know, you start to see, you know, this is what I need to see, black and white compared to the color and everything. And it's a big difference. And I took only one roll of film, and I did get the cover of the documentary. It was a beautiful shot of the mother mourning her son's death, and in the background, the sun is hitting her silhouette. It was beautiful. And then I showed him. I said, "You see, that's why I brought the camera." I said, "This is just things you can't get with the digital that this dinosaur camera can do." Absolutely. And that's to me, that to me proved to myself that I don't care what camera you had. You could have a digital camera, it wouldn't work. It just did not work. It wouldn't work because you said it. You're there, and in just a couple seconds, you have to adjust the speed. You know, the stop, boom, 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 right there. You know how to do it. You know, you're not letting the camera not necessarily tell you how to do it or manipulate you, tell you how to do it. But that was just a quick little story. And yes, absolutely, the photography actually helped me. The black and white photography, street photography helped me. That just no doubt. With digital film, one thing I noticed about digital cameras, what frustrated me in the beginning when they got to a quality that they were usable was, you know, setting an aperture, right, for my depth of field on film. I mean, I could do it. I knew I didn't have to have a lens that would mimic it for me. I knew at 2.4 at this distance, this is what it's going to look like. Right? Yeah. Now, but what I noticed about digital, you set the aperture
and you try to get a depth of field. I'm like, Jesus Christ, this thing's capturing everything.
Yeah.
How do you blur this out? How do I get that out of focus in the back? And at first it almost seemed like it was too extreme. I had the settings and the distances and everything. In digital cameras for filmmaking, have you noticed that kind of disparity between the control that you could have over film? Is digital too good? Is it overcompensating? I mean, you can, obviously manual controls on the cameras, but have you run into any?
Yeah, it comes down to me. It's the camera, how good the camera is. Like, you're absolutely right. There's just some cameras like, dude, I can't work with this camera. This camera's just, it's like, and again, the cameras are getting so much better now, and they're getting cheaper too, and they're so much better. Mm-hmm. And to me, it always depends on the camera. That's why a lot of people always say, "Oh, I like working with Canon." It's all preference. I like working with Canons, and I like to work with the Black Magic. So I like to work with the Aries. I like to work, whatever cameras, the digital that you guys, whatever people want to work with, well, any of those cameras. And I think again, it comes down to preference and which camera. But yeah, I think they just. I don't know what the word is. I mean, sometimes to me, it feels like it's just so crisp, clean, these digital cameras. I just feel like, I don't know if you guys feel this way, but I feel like when you watch like a Netflix, it seems like everyone is using the same damn equipment.
Yes.
Everyone's using and they are because it's the same crew. They go into the same, showrunner. The Netflix feels comfortable, or all these companies, and the same showrunner is going to hire the same sort of, crew, production, everything, and it seems like it's the same equipment. They just jumped into the next script, and it's just, I feel like there's nothing that's out there is giving us a different kind of feel for it. And going back to Zombie with a Shotgun, I felt like I was afraid of that because, a lot of people look at it and they're like, oh, this is an indie film. It's cheap. It's low budget, because everyone right now is so trained and cued for that streaming, Netflix / Amazon original look.
Yeah, that sterility.
And, and, not realizing we didn't have a budget to get that sort of equipment. You know what I mean? So it's really, and a lot of people don't understand that. You get people, it doesn't look good. It's low budget. It's cheap and everything. I'm like, hey, that's indie filmmaking for you. You know what I mean? That's just, people just don't get it. But I just feel like there's nothing they're giving us, as in like, I don't know. It just feels like everything seems the same sort of feel look to it.
I hear you.
Well, I think there's one thing, and we mentioned it really briefly earlier, but there's one thing in Zombie with a Shotgun that I feel can stand up to even like the Walking Dead type things, which is the makeup in that movie. I
wanted to get to that. The makeup.
I've been dying inside to hear you talk about the makeup.
So the thing is, we had about like 6 makeup artists throughout the film. The main one was Ashley. She was the main makeup artist that came on board. She was the key makeup artist for everything on the film, and so the makeup was, everyone did such an unbelievable job, at the makeup and everything. We had a gentleman from Australia that created some of the prosthetics for the scene where you see him rising up, sitting up with the other female zombie.
Okay.
That female zombie actually was the makeup artist. She was in it. Yeah, she was in it herself. Yeah. And she created those scenes with the whole makeup. Now, again, we of course, indie filmmaking, we people always say, oh, why did it take so long to make the film? Because we still had to raise money.
Yes.
People say, you coulda, you shoulda. Yeah, I would have shot the whole film if I had all the money, and the movie would have been out in a year and a half. But I didn't have the money. So we had to keep on raising every year for the monies for the film. So, that first year and a half, we were still raising money. We shot 75% in the film. But the main scene to me was, we have to show the audience a zombie with a Shotgun. That's the title. If we, if we didn't have it, I would have been destroyed. There were times that I said, we can't afford it, we can't have it, and I'm like, hell no. I'm gonna get so destroyed. I'm gonna get so killed. I mean, they're gonna burn. There's already people talking about saying, oh, we don't get enough of the Zombie with a Shotgun. But I had to get it. So before I started shooting, before I was gonna shoot this film, there was this makeup artist by the name of Benjamin. Oh man, I'm starting to get picked. Was it Benjamin? Okay, so let me get his name while I'm talking to you. I wanted him to come into the film Zombie with a Shotgun, but he was, an amazing makeup artist, and he worked a lot on the Gotham. Like, he would do like Penguin, and he's done unbelievable makeup for so many, films and projects. And I did know him. I knew him from a mutual friend. So I wanted him to come in the very beginning, but his price was just unbelievable. I couldn't afford it. I mean, we're talking about, it was just so damn expensive. Now you know why, because it was amazing, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, he's over, I think he has over 100 something credits now or whatever, done so many special effects, makeup artists. He's up there. He's a really amazing artist. Bornstein, that's his name, Ben Bornstein. You can look him up. You can see all his work he's done. He's an amazing makeup artist. And I was like, oh, please. And he's like, oh, I didn't have the money for him. I was like, okay. So when I finally wanted that scene, that actually was the last scene we shot. Why? We had to raise money. So we raised money, finally got to him. Hey, Ben, guess what? We finished doing Zombie with a Shotgun. I said, but we got one more scene. It's the scene. It's the scene with the Zombie with the Shotgun. And guess what? I want you to do it. And he was like, oh, well, can you afford me? So I said, no, I don't think I can. I think I could possibly be a ballpark, right? So I gave him a budget of money and everything like that. We started talking. He was like, oh, come on. He was like, Hilton, this is ridiculous. He says, And he finally said, okay. He says, I like you, I like the project, I like the whole concept, I like everything, but you're going to have to buy all the prosthetics and everything. So we had to order stuff in California, the hands, the face, everything, the neck, some of the chest plate, everything. So we ordered it. I mean, we came over to my place, my office. We looked at all the stuff and everything. It was like great. We looked at all the photographs and everything like that. Just, what kind of look I wanted, And and then we scheduled the day. I think it was I think we shot that on my birthday, March 6th. And we shot that last scene, and he came in. He did like about, I think, 6 or 7 hours. Remember, and it's just face and hands. Yeah. And we're ready to rock and roll. And, I have some of the stuff documented. I wish we had a little bit more documented, but we was just so busy. I have photographs of it. I wish we had a little bit more video of it, but it was just so much. Fixing the set of that day was just, was ridiculous. And then that's how it is. His name is, like I said, Ben Bornstein. If you ever looked at his stuff, you can look at him in IMDb credits. And when you see the makeup department, his name is Ben. And you can even look, he has like I don't know if he has it anymore. He has like an amazing website of all the stuff that he's done. Is incredible. Okay. And I know he does a lot of, I think that day he had to go work on Gotham to do like all like the makeup for like the, all, some of the things.
You know what this reminds me of?
Tell me.
We did an episode on Night of the Living Dead because we want to talk about, how George Romero made this little B movie, and it became, I mean, the reason you're making a zombie movie is because of him. The few that came before that, White Zombie, it's its own thing. But we talked about the moment in the film, how the zombies are they're wearing, pasty makeup, dark circles around the eyes. But then they had that one zombie where they focus on, has nothing to do with the story other than somebody's hunched over eating flesh, right? Doesn't attack the main characters. We never see this zombie again. But this one is all done up. And we call it the Romero moment. It's like, you know what? he looked into his budget and he's like, okay, guys, we have this much, we can do one face.
Yeah.
and we're gonna feature it prominently because we can. We have to have something other than someone who looks like they're just hungover, you know. And when we were watching Zombie with a Shotgun, because it's right there, bam, ooh, that's nice.
Yeah.
And but everything, it's pretty steady throughout, though. The evolution and the other zombies. So it wasn't like everything else was, well, just give me some powder and some rouge and we'll make it work. Everyone, it clearly was done well. But that one, I mean, we thought about that. We're like, wow, for an independent film, how much fucking money did that cost?
Yeah, it was pretty.
Wow.
It was pretty darn expensive.
I believe it. Yeah, because we
Yes.
in our episode, I think you heard, this is like, Greg Nicotero level stuff. And I use him as an example, not just because of Walking Dead. I have followed Greg Nicotero since I was a kid. He started showing up back in the late 70s, early 80s. They had, Fangoria, FX Magazine, Movie Effects. I was big into special effects, which back then was just, prosthetics and blood and mostly, gore, the occasional animated alien. And his name started popping up. So, I'd see him throughout the years then, effects by Greg Nicotero. And it's like, woo! So
Yeah.
that's kind of our benchmark because that's who we know that does some pretty wild, good stuff. And
It is a big compliment, and I told him, he I was like, dude, it's like, I get it a lot. I tell him, dude, how many people come to me and say, hey, you know what, believe it or not, that's the best zombie makeup I've seen in years. I've had people tell me that. Yes, I know they probably want to make me feel good for the movie and everything, but I'm just like, okay, I take it, If they say that, I just take it the way it is. Like, okay, but it is, when I first saw it on the screen, I was like, whoa, that looks really good.
Yeah.
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 Well, I'll tell you what, Ben, if you're listening, man, whoa. Kudos, dude. That was absolutely top notch.
He is a top notch guy. Definitely is.
So we're going to wind this down a little bit.
Go ahead.
But I want to talk more about Zombie with a Shotgun. I just want to hear, just some experiences from shooting this. Things that, like anything in particular that you had to wrestle with, that you had to overcome. Shooting independent film is usually done over an extended period of time. Yeah. And because we watched a show called Wormwood Road of the Dead. And we're like, yeah, this is pretty cool. But then we found out it was shot over 3 years.
On weekends.
And he could only do it on weekends. And we were just blown away because the continuity, to keep things straight that long and that broken up is a huge undertaking. So just from your perspective, this wasn't your first day at the rodeo, but what did this present to you?
Oh boy. There's a saying, the saying, behind the scenes is always better than the movie, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. This was one of them. There was just so much drama in the film, as we all know, and that's just part of filmmaking. There's so much things. How can I get into it? Well, yeah. I mean, look, we had to shoot. The main thing I would tell you, we shot I think it was 2 weeks in 10 to 12 days, basically 2 weeks in August. And that week, the first 7-8 days was the hottest week in New York in the whole year. And actually, it was 3 or 4 days that broke the record of the hottest. Oh. So that was probably the biggest problem. We were shooting basically every single day in 90 to 95 degrees weather.
Right, with lights all over the place.
Lights all over. In the basement, in an attic, in a warehouse, as you see it crumbling down, everything. There's, they only had AC was the office, and the office had AC, but it was so many people. It was maybe 20, 25 people there, and the ACs are not really working when you have all those bodies around.
Yes.
Well, sometimes you don't even want to turn on the AC because of the sound, right?
Yeah, we had to. Sometimes there were some scenes that we had to shoot in the office. We had to shut it off.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had the AC wasn't working. Then we had to shut it off like a good 6 hours, bring it back on. The weather was just, not good. It was horrible. We had, and listen, when that happens, what happens? You get grouchy people, you get people that's complaining, you get angry people, and you get in confrontations, and it was tough. It was tough. It was rough, and I just have this, amazing that everyone stuck, and stayed with the project, and I think a lot of it was because people believed in the project.
Well, that says a lot, about the people involved, from crew to cast.
Yes,
big hat tip to them because on your worst day, I mean, we've heard, people walk away like, I'm just done with this. I'm getting next to nothing.
I'm so that's one thing that I have to tell you. Nobody walked out. Again, you get a lot of like drama there. There's so many drama, side stories, so much,
right.
Rumors, gossip, all this stuff. It was going all over. I mean, we had, for indie film, we had 30 cast members there. That was really like crazy too, to even have like 30 people in a very low budget film. And
yeah.
And getting a lot of people in and out, coming in and out and everything like that. Nobody walked out. Everybody did their thing. Even though there's, a lot of stuff was happening. But again, I have to give it to no one really, not really, nobody at all. Everyone complained about the heat and everything like that, but
of course, everyone
stuck together, stayed in the project, and maybe I was the only one that was basically saying I was worried, very worried. I was like, oh man, it is too damn hot. It's like I think there was one of the crew members had on his phone that it reached to 104 degrees in the room.
Oh man!
And he was showing me like on the side. I'm like, damn, this guy shows me this one more time. Like I was afraid. I was like, I was like, oh man, it is too damn hot. I don't think we could. I really thought we wouldn't be able to finish the film because it was that hot. Of course, me, I'm gonna do it. But,
right.
The other guy may like, hey, I can't do this. I might, maybe medical condition or whatever. And again, unbelievable. But again, that was the key factor in the film, was that heat. And believe it or not, the last day we shot, that was it. I think it was 86 degrees. And then when the very following day, it dropped to like 75. We were so pissed. Yeah.
Man.
We were so pissed off. But other than that, that was the main problem. It was damn freaking heat. And I think if the weather was, 80s, low 80s, and we would have been fine, but it's just the heat was just a killer. I can't even believe there's some scenes in there. I would say most of the scenes in the warehouse and everything, it was like over 95 and you can't even tell. But when we cut, everybody was pissed off. It's too damn hot. Somebody turn the fan on. It's hilarious. I think there's if I could find like recording of it, you could hear it. Once we cut, everybody's like, give me water. Everybody pass the water around.
Oh man.
Yeah. And the basement scene was the hottest. That was the one that was registered at 104.
Oh.
It was the hottest. And we had, I think, 7 people in the scene. Towards the end of the scene, it was like 7 people. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 6 people in that scene.
Okay.
That was the hottest. That one was ridiculous. And but yeah, that was the key factor of doing the indie film. And
that brings up a question that we had. So all these old buildings and stuff that you shot in.
Yep.
Was this scouted and planned? Was some of this guerrilla shooting? Because we've seen both, and it's like, well, it's super consistent. But then, like those drone shots, I had no idea there were such, because we thought this could be, South Detroit or the leftovers of New Orleans that they never got to, because some of that stuff looked bad.
Yes. I tell you, a lot of even New Yorkers don't know about that location. And me being, of course, from New York City, I do drive a lot everywhere. I drive everywhere. So That part, the particular place that a lot of people are like, where is that? That does not look like New York City. That was actually in Brooklyn. It's in the Brooklyn Navy Yard. So you have to really go inside a Brooklyn Navy Yard, and you got to sneak inside. Okay. So when I used to drive around, you can see, because they closed that area in Brooklyn Navy Yard, but you could still walk around. And right now Brooklyn Navy Yard is, that area they knocked down. I think they're making buildings. I don't know, apartments or condos, penthouses. I mean, New York City is becoming ridiculous with all this development. So that doesn't exist anymore. They're knocked down. But I just remember when I used to drive, you could see through the gate. There's like a gate, and you could see right through a little bit. It's like, wow, that would be a great, location to shoot if we could get inside. So, yeah, if we could get inside. So that was, part of, guerrilla indie filmmaking. So go to my drone guy, which happens to be a really good friend of mine. So again, it's luck doing this for so many years, having so many friends that, would do it. So Glenn was my good friend. He's a professional, obviously he's a professional drone operator. You could tell.
Yeah.
He does for motion picture films. I think one of his famous scenes was the opening scene for 007 Royale in the, when he's doing the, running. I forgot. I think it was that part. And I think Mission Impossible. That was one of his famous scenes, that drone scenes he's done. So again, a really good friend of mine. And I mean, we're really good friends. So that helps a lot.
Yeah, it does.
And him and I really, really good friends. And I say, hey, Glenn, I got this location, man, but I don't know if we could get in it. He was like, man, we're going to get in. He said, we got to wake up 4:00 in the morning. We'll head to the park, Brooklyn. And we'll wait there till the sun comes up. When the sun comes up, that's when we start. So we did it. We went at 4:00 in the morning, picked him up. We set the whole, he got his whole drones out and everything. We were in the park. So we flew it out, and he went inside with the drone, but it didn't, it's still, we needed to get inside.
Right.
And that was the key thing. We needed to get inside to get the shots. So eventually we creeped ourselves to go in there, and that's, part of guerrilla filmmaking. I mean, we did it. We got in there, and that's no one able to see that unless, again, you sneak inside. So that's why it's when people see it, even New Yorkers, it's like, yo, where the hell's that? I'm like, oh, dude, that's inside the area that they're demolishing. You're not allowed in there. And that was the scene. Yeah. Awesome. And another scene that was really lucky with the drone shots is one of the opening scenes with the title Zombie with a Shotgun when it comes in. That scene also was luck. My friend actually owned the building in Alphabet City over there in Manhattan. Okay. And I asked them, because the main thing with drones shots and everything, you have to have access to roofs. Right. That's the main thing. Okay, have access to the roof, we can do the scene. So my friend owned the building. I said, hey, I need to go on top of your roof. He's like, fine. We went on top of it. And that was also a rare shot. Nobody's ever captured a drone shot from that area. Okay. Why? It's the Con Edison building. You can't go near the Con Ed building. Yep. It's very, very, that's one of a kind. You'll never, ever get that shot because you're not allowed to do anything anywhere remotely close to the Con Ed facility right there, especially in New York City, Manhattan. And I was really proud of that. That's one thing I'm really proud of, for me, wanted to, being from Manhattan and Lower East Side, the film 90% to 95% was shot on Lower East Side. And I was really happy about that. It was really cool.
Well, yeah, it was. I mean, and it's all so beautifully done. I mean, it just really is, from the drones to just your work. Fantastic.
Yeah. And just to give you a really quick thing, a lot of those guys, when shooting the film, and it was an indie film, I said, hey, I needed to enhance the film in some way and bring other art talents to the film. We have Ben was the makeup artist, we have Glenn the drone artist, and I really wanted to fill in the animation, and I really want to give Robin Steele. Robin Steele is one of the guys who created stick figure theater for MTV Liquid TV. Yes, he was one of my favorite episodes. Was Night of the Living Dead.
Okay.
And if you ever Google it, he actually does the stick figure animation, word from one of the scenes in the movie.
I remember that. Liquid TV was my thing. Whoa.
Yes, and that was his slot. His episodes was Liquid TV. He did all this thing. And that's where he got famous from. And when I approached him, I told him about, hey, I know you probably get bothered by this, and people talk about your Liquid TV and everything like that. But he wasn't bothered. He loved it. He was just so appreciative that somebody still remembered his work, because he said that was his glory. His glory was when he was able to do his own art. He had freedom.
Yeah.
Eventually, when you get into corporate world, you don't have that freedom.
Right.
Yeah.
So when I told him about Zombie with a Shotgun, and I told him about, the whole experiment, I don't want to give out the 2 movie, he was dying laughing. He's like, hell yeah, I want to do this. And I had like a small budget too. And I told him, I don't have that much money. This is what I have for you. But he loved it so much, the whole concept, that he was there, and he was brought in there.
Nice.
And a lot of, and like people are fans of Liquid TV. That's another cool thing to look at. If people still remember that whole thing, that Robin Steele was the guy who created that, and he came in. Hopefully we do a sequel that will bring him back in to do another piece.
Well, tell him that, there are people out. Like I said, Liquid TV was my thing. It was cutting edge animation. I mean, that's where the world was introduced to Aeon Flux long before, right? All these wonderful little shorts and 2 and 3 minute things that were highly impactful to me as a storyteller. I thought, man, that's so awesome. And some of them, there wasn't even any speaking. But you mentioned it, so we're going to talk about or ask about it. The sequel, the next one.
A sequel.
What?
Yes.
What are your thoughts? What's your plan?
Well, I give a little bit hints here and there. We did talk about this earlier. We talk about vampires, and we're going to introduce the story with bringing in some vampires. I don't want to give too much of the story. Oh, yeah. We definitely going to say that. There is a what they call that Easter egg.
Okay.
There's an Easter egg in the film that basically kind of gives a little hint as vampires if you watched Zombie with a Shotgun.
Okay.
Yeah. Obviously, I'm not going to say it because I'm going to give it up, but there's an Easter egg in there that actually tells, it shows a little, it doesn't show, but it gives a little hint that there's going to be something about vampires.
Okay.
So.
What are you looking at time frame? I know that's such a simple question.
Of the sequel?
Yeah.
Well, obviously we would love to get it right away. I'm getting a lot of, even producer, even Kyle's, calling me, say, hey, what do you think we should do? My plan is, I think that, obviously it's been a month only the film has been out.
Right.
I'm happy it's getting a good feedback. It's, people responding very well. And, it's hard also because it is an indie film. How far can this indie film go?
Right.
That will kind of call on for a sequel. And obviously we raise it ourselves, and is there an investor that will come this time around to come on and bring a big chunk of the film, money to do the film? That we can't tell, but we definitely want to go over 100 territories by next year. And by April, May, we think we're going to accomplish that. We're going to get a world, more places around the world, internationally out there. And we're going to also go on other streaming services. And I think that will help also.
Okay.
Also, I think in a month or two, we're going to introduce a video game.
Ooh.
So that's another thing in the works. I've been talking to these guys that been really interested in doing it. It's been a long time since a lot of people have been saying, let's do this, let's do that. And I'm like, again, like I said, luck, not luck, whatever. You get people that you don't believe them. And then when they just keep on saying, no, we are serious. I'm like, no, that's okay. No, they're like, no, we're serious. We want to do this. And then I'm like, oh, okay. That was the same thing that happened with the whole comic book thing. I was like, nah, this guy's, because you get a lot of those people.
Yep.
You get a lot of those people that say, So that's we're looking to get a little small game. I'm not talking about huge game. We're getting a little small little game out there, to build more of the fan base, and help out possibly to do the sequel. And we would like to approach it by I would say mid-year. I think we're going to decide of how we will approach this, as in go back to the executives of the horror world, or do we raise it on our own, or do we just go out there and do another look for a different approach at it. And that's the thing that we need to discuss. Like, and it's really hard, to raise money in the campaign. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and even thinking about it, I'm like, oh man, I don't know if I want to do that. That's really crazy to do that again. That's going to take how long? Is it going to do another 3 years to do this whole thing again?
Right.
No, I don't know if I have that. I don't know if I have the energy for it, because it was draining.
Oh yeah.
So that's that. I think that's the question. The answer to that would be we're trying to get more, get the whole IP out a little bit more further out worldwide, and getting more people to watch and everything. Then we could figure it out. But we definitely going to aim for a sequel.
Okay.
It's just we have to figure out are we going to do it campaign wise,
right,
or is somebody going to come on board and help us this time around?
Is it written?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Well, that's the biggest part.
Yeah.
I want to. The only thing I would tell the fans is that I want to give them something that a lot of them did say it was lacking. It was lacking the zombiness and the bloodness and the shooting them out. I just let them know that the very beginning of the film, we're going to start the way it ended, where he's there, and we're going to have that ultimate sort of like zombie shootout thing going out with the fans really probably want, like, oh, they want it. We promise to give that.
Nice.
Okay.
Picking right up.
Yeah. We promise to give that up. So we're going to start from there and give them that really, that shotgun action.
Well, this is the call to action, folks. Get out there, buy this, rent this, go to the website, send emails. It's independent film, and if you like it, show the support, because people like Hilton, it motivates them, because that's the big question. Do I have it in me to do this big long ass haul for 3 more years? But if there's people rallying behind you, and there's, more importantly, money coming in, that's how things get done. And that's this isn't about Oscars and fancy parties. This is about the nitty gritty. Fans, show your appreciation and income. So come on, folks, do it.
Grind it out. I like to thank the fans too. I like to thank the indie community, you guys, everybody, because the film would have never been made if it wasn't for the indie community that came and rallied behind us. And I think that's very important. I mean, it's really hard, as you guys know, as being independent artists and doing indie work. It takes a lot of work, and and the indie community understands that.
Right.
They really do understand that, and that I really like to thank them all. Like I said, thank you guys for coming out, supporting the film, supporting us, and just knowing that this is what it is. Grinding it out, just getting this this work out, because it would have never been made, if it wasn't for that, if it wasn't, like I said, I had so many, issues in the beginning trying to approach these guys that want to come in the money. They don't want to give it if I give money, or they want to just, take the film. But, again, I tell everybody, just keep on grinding it out and get your stuff out there.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Hilton Ruiz, the God Emperor of the world of Zombie with a Shotgun. It's been absolutely fantastic talking to you.
Thank you.
It's been such a treat. Thank you for doing this.
And I hope we're going to do it again.
Thank you. Absolutely.
So keep putting stuff out.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Likewise, definitely.
All right, then. So that'll bring this episode to a close, folks. Hope you got a lot of good info. I mean, we know it's there, so I hope you were listening. And yep, check the show notes for the links. Go rent, buy, purchase stuff, show your support, and more importantly, treat yourself to this awesome film. And we're going to roll out.
Yep.